Thanks everybody very much for coming and attending today. It's really great. This is the second year that I've hosted the PNG Symposium here at the Fun Show to start off the new year, and it's another good crowd, and I really appreciate that everybody has come out despite the fact that we gave free food. But no, I had a little plate, and I thought the food was amazing. Definitely an upgrade from last year's food. So the Convention Center did a great job, and we really appreciate their efforts. And so thanks again, everybody, for coming. My name is John Feigenbaum. If you don't know me, then please make sure I do before the show is over. I am the current executive director of the PNG, and it's my pleasure to welcome everyone here to the Security Symposium for coin dealers. And we want to, we're trying every year, the PNG board is making a concerted effort to bring value to our membership and also to the coin dealer community. Whether you're a member or not, you're welcome here at our events, because we really want to grow the PNG into an inclusive organization where everyone is welcome, everyone who is a highly regarded coin dealer in good standing in this community. We think we can really differentiate ourselves in this regard. The collectibles world needs organizations like the PNG for a lot of reasons. And one reason is it's the old Chinese proverb, bundle of sticks, where, individually we have little power. As a collective, we can do a lot of things. So as a collective, we can go to large organizations like eBay and say, listen, we want to enact change. One dealer can't make that voice, but 100, 200, 300, 400 coin dealers can. So that's part of the PNG mandate. Ever since I took over 6 months ago, we've been fast tracking a lot of changes to try to get into a modern state with this organization. Things we've done just in the past few months, we basically looked at the entire PNG bylaws and said, okay, this thing looks like it was written in 1982. We're talking about, votes by fax or things like that. So we had to update, clean it up, and also figure out how we can be more welcoming to the younger next generation of dealers. And when I say younger, I'm talking about 40-year-olds. I'm not talking about 20-year-olds. The average PNG dealer is probably in their 60s, if I had to guess. And that is a problem for the PNG. So that's one reason why we are welcoming everybody we can with open arms and try to make this community larger. So we've revamped the bylaws, and most significantly within those bylaws, we changed the membership statuses to kind of a simplified gold associate, and silver. So gold is your traditional PNG full member, and you need to own a coin business. We want you to be in business 5 years, or 5 years or 3 years, 3 full-time years. That's plenty. We don't need to be 5. We're no longer looking at your financials and saying, what kind of assets do you have? To me, that's a very old-fashioned, invasive piece of information that really wouldn't help you anyway, because if someone is a bad actor, it doesn't really matter what assets they have, you're not getting them. So let's face it, it doesn't really matter what's in the bank, it matters what's in your heart. So we want the high quality people, individuals in this industry to join us so we can be stronger. So we have this gold membership, and then if you work for a gold member and you are management or something, you could come in as a gold member, or you can come in as a gold member associate. And the gold member associate difference is that you aren't subject to the arbitration that gold members are subject to, but therefore your employer would be. So it's the same difference in that regard. So we want to get the associates in, because eventually they will own coin businesses and they'll be gold members. And then we've opened up this new class of member, sort of called a silver membership. And the silver is intended for really non-dealers. This was never really considered in the past at the PNG, but people who are peripheral to this industry. And let's say you work at the Smithsonian Museum, or let's say you're the marketing director of a very large coin company. You could be a silver member, and let's say it's eBay, where they're not really a coin business. So you could join as a silver member, and it's very inexpensive, but at least it brings you in, and you get to learn about this organization and help support us. So that was the fundamental change, the most fundamental change we did with the bylaws. We are also instituted a new program for I think for a couple years, where we're going to allow people to join as gold members. So if you're new, you've never been a PNG member, you can join the PNG for $600 a year versus the normal fee is I think $1,200 a year. So half price for 2 years to get into this organization so we can grow it and have you come in. So please, I don't know, maybe half the faces in here are PNG members and half aren't, or whatever the ratio is, but please think about, if you're a member, how you can help us grow by getting some of these applications to people, and tell your friends and say, listen, there's no reason for $50 a month not to be a PNG member. And we've got applications sitting here, so please come and grab them at the end of the event. We can maybe put them by the back of the room at that point. But thank you for considering and helping us grow. Like I said, we need everyone in this room to basically be our ambassadors to grow the organization. We've also, I'm going to run through a few quick things about what we've done, and then for sure we're going to get you out of here before 2 p.m. That's when the show opens, so there's no question we're going to have you out of here. We'll stop mid-sentence if that's necessary. So we'll run through that, and then we're out. So anyway, we've done a brand new website that's just been relaunched at pngdealers.org. Has, I think, a better search mechanism, which is everyone's biggest thing, but you can also get the applications online there, and you can learn more about the PNG. We've created, in the last 6 months, an entirely new organization within our organization called Next Gen. The idea behind Next Gen is to bring in, let's say, sub 25-year-old young dealers who we consider to be the next generation. Now, these young folks are being courted by numerous organizations, but what's unique about what the PNG is doing is this is a mentoring project. What we want to do is pair PNG members with these young guys, young gals, and teach them a lot of the important nuances of what it is to be a professional dealer. So for example, don't write bad checks, right? If you write a check, make sure it clears. And if it doesn't clear, how do you respond to that? We're laughing, but this is a very real issue. No one really teaches you. It's one thing to buy a coin for 100 and sell it for 120. It's another thing to be respectful to your fellow dealers and make sure that they know you're credible. And if you make a mistake at 25, it's going to haunt you until you're 40, so let's not make that mistake now. So this mentoring program is designed to match dealers up with the young folks, and tonight we're having a Next Gen function at the Cuba Libre restaurant, which is just up the street here, like 200 yards, it's 200 yards away from the Hyatt. But the Cuba Libre at 7 p.m., any PNG dealer, we would love to have you. We actually have more YNs coming to this event than right now that we have dealer mentors. So please come at 7 p.m. It's a dinner. It's basically an open forum where we're just going to chat and introduce and get to know some of these young people, which is just fabulous. It's great for you. It's great for them. So please do that. Please come. I'll probably close and remind you again, but please join us tonight. Even if you can come for half an hour, just come. What else have we done? We just re-signed with the Central States. So this has always been a bone of contention, is the PNG having a dealer day at events. And as we famously know, we no longer have a part of the ANA summer show, but we do have a really good relationship with Central States. At the Central States organization is giving us a dealer day for the whole, I think it's the Wednesday of Central States. And we've also, in the idea of inclusivity, is you don't have to be a PNG member to have a table. You get a discounted rate for being a PNG member. So that's part of your dues, going to save you money at the Central States show. But what we're trying to do is not occupy this large room with a small number of dealers, which is something that'll come up later as a security risk. And also we want everyone to do business. We think that at the PNG, my fundamental belief coming in as the executive director is that if we show goodwill to the community, we're going to benefit in large ways. So that's what's happening at Central States. We've also adding some sponsorship categories. So if you're interested in supporting the PNG in any way, if you want to be a silver sponsor or something, please come talk to me or any of the board members and tell us, hey, how can my auction company get involved, or how can my coin company or anything? How can we be a sponsor to this organization? What would we get out of it, and vice versa? So that's new. And We are also working, I think, lastly, on becoming an official nonprofit. So we have the paperwork in for that. So if anybody gives charity donations to this organization from a private individual, as a company, it's always going to be tax deductible. But as a nonprofit, Tony, you can write large checks to us now and tax deductible outside of your company. So we thank you in advance. And last but not least, this is a bit of housekeeping for the membership, but and Doug Davis is here. He's one of our presenters. Doug, somewhere. Doug's in the back corner. Doug, the ACEF was up until now part of the PNG, and we are splitting that apart, and so that's not a secret. It's an official piece of business to tell you about. Doug's organization of the ACEF is morphing, and you'll have to chat with Doug at the Coin Show about how that looks in the future. But the PNG looked long and hard at that and said that this is really this is a counterfeiting enforcement task force that he manages, and we felt that was a consumer protection, and that the PNG is in dealer protection. So we are really about dealers at this time, and we think that was better suited elsewhere. And it's found a good new home, so you'll learn more about that in the future. So thank you again for coming. And today, we're going to jump into the event, and we're going to talk about coin dealer security, which is a hot topic, of course, for everybody. If you're not concerned about coin dealer security, then you're at risk, just for being naive, honestly. There's a lot of bad things happening, and everybody has to be on guard. I've been a coin dealer for 45 of my 55 years, and it's always been bad, but it's getting worse, I think, every year. So you're going to hear from some really good experts today. You're going to hear from security to insurance to all kinds of aspects of this topic. So we thank you, and I think you'll get something valuable out of that. I want to thank really quickly James Sago and Jeff Garrett, because as board members, they've just really been instrumental. I'm just up here talking words, but they did the heavy lifting along with Tina Valanka, who made sure this room was prepared properly and so on. She couldn't be here today, but we can thank the three of them for everything else. So I think without further ado, Jeff, I'll introduce you. Jeff Garrett is a PNG board member for more years than I can count. Gives an awful lot to this organization. He's the owner of Mid-American Rare Coin Galleries. He's a past president of the PNG. He's past president of A&A, editor of the Red Book, and nobody more qualified to introduce.
Thanks, John. So you guys probably saw the agenda for today and saw that I was speaking on cybersecurity, and you maybe thought I was having a career change, but that's not the case. I'm pretty good at Excel spreadsheets and Microsoft Word, and that's about it. But this is a super important subject, and I'll tell you why I'm speaking on it. So one morning in the fall of 2020, that was it. Kind of COVID was, hot and heavy, and we're all kind of like, minimal staff. So I'm there with not that many people in my office, and I get a call from my bank wanted to verify a wire for $45,000. So I said, nope. I had not sent a wire. I had not called you. Had nothing to do with it, and I could tell there was like a little bit of panic in the call center voice, and I told them no, and I immediately knew something was wrong. And then they asked me I should call my bank representative, which was, basically my loan officer that I've known for like 10 years. And then she, I could tell from her super panic voice that it was, that we had trouble. So the next bit of news made my stomach turn. Actually, I could probably get sick just talking to you about it. But the bank had sent $500,000 in wires out of my account, and the $45,000 was a courtesy calls because it overdrew my account. They'd sent a bunch of them, and that was the only reason they were calling, because of that one. So it was like the perfect storm, because it was like the fall of the COVID. I don't normally have that much money in my account, but we haven't been to coin shows. I'd just been selling stuff, and it was like Murphy's Law, too. Like one client that I had sent $100,000 worth of coins on memo had sent a bank wire a week earlier, had not told me, and I didn't even know the money was in the account. So it was like just a perfect storm. So $500,000 evaporated from my checking account. So As most of you are probably thinking, which what I probably thought was, it's the bank's fault, and surely they would return the money. So that was, so I was kind of like, oh, just kiss can't happen. So that was 100% wrong. So I talked to my loan officer, and she was like, "Do I need to come over there and like hold your hand or something?" Like, that was kind of what she was basically saying. And the bank's position was that someone had hacked my computer systems and had gotten enough information about me to convince them that I was them calling up to do the bank wires, which I thought my checking account was basically. I had not even worried about it because I have a thing called a fob. I don't know if everybody here know what a fob is for doing bank wires. They give you like a little digital thing, and if you send a bank wire, they send you as code, and then you tell them the number on the code, and that's kind of what you do with your phone. It's like, third thing, something of authentication. So the bad people had convinced them that I had lost my fob, and they sent them a new one. So that shows you how I guess that was part of what happened. So it was. It was just a nightmare, and then really what also was shocking that when they took that stance, and then when I said that, well, when I had to get legal advice, or what are we doing here, that almost immediately stopped the communication with the bank because I became, it was like a hostile relationship all of a sudden. So I had to, that just started. What do you do? So I had to contact a friend. Luckily, one of my neighbors is a really powerful attorney in Lexington and pretty good at this kind of stuff. So I was out the $500,000, and it was the most stressful thing I'd ever been through. It was like, it's hard to describe it because, it's one thing to like do a big business deal to lose it or to have the stock market go down, but have someone steal it from you, and then you just feel violated. It's like, well, how do these people know? I guess they know my mother's birth date now. So it's like all this, it's just such a violation. It's hard to describe. So I won't give you the next 3 months blow by blow, but the FBI was involved. They told me that they knew where the wires went to. They know they were able to trace certain things. But a lot of them just immediately went out. I think they were able to, like I say, it all became real murky because I couldn't find out exactly what was going on because of the litigation. And eventually we were able to settle, and I settled with my bank, and I lost about $150,000. So that was the bottom line of it. And I had to sign a non-disclosure, so I can't tell you the name of the bank even that did it. And and I think I was only able to get that much back because what I got, because they were I think they were able to do some sort of clawback where they were able to get back some of the money, but I don't even know that because that was and then also the FBI and also the bank tells me that even though they got some money, they don't even know that takes months or years to sort out because there could be other victims and they have claims. So it's you guys see what I'm saying? So it's not like that's my money. It's all going into a big pool of stolen money. So anyway, I decided I couldn't stand the stress, so I settled, and I was like, I didn't want to just have to deal with it. So I put it behind me. But it was shocking, and cybersecurity is I learned the hard way. It's a super serious problem, and like I said, I'm not an expert in this field. But I did learn, I don't know if learned the right word, but I was told, some tips, and I've tried to establish some things that I think that would be helpful. And I want to share those with you today just to give you some ideas. But the bottom line of it is a serious problem. And if anybody reads the news, it's every day there's some sort of they're stealing, these there's teams of people that are, as so you'll hear some of my other speakers talk about, there's people sitting in rooms all day long just figuring out how to take your money. That's what they're basically doing. So you've just got to make it as hard as you possibly can. So my little tips I've got for you is one of the first things I did is I'm obviously, probably no big surprise, I changed banks. So that's probably not a shocking news. So I went to a smaller regional bank, a local bank that I know the guy. We've got a relationship now that I hope and I let him know that it's important. But the main thing is someone that knows me. So this big giant banks have gotten so into call centers, and people barely speak English. Bank of America now has they've opened branches in Lexington, and there's nobody in them. You go in and you're dealing with a computer screen. So I mean, it's I highly recommend the smaller bank model. For me, I feel much more comfortable with that, and I think it's one level of protection. Of course, bank wires now. I've got my accounts all on lockdown. You can only wires out with me personally calling the person. I've got to do verbal verification and hand them off in writing to that. So, but it's a lot of work because it's that's a hindrance for business. But you've got to take that into mind. Also, anytime you do emails with like if you receive information to send a bank wire through email, 100% do not send it till you call the person that sent you the email and say, did verify the information and the wire account information and all that kind of stuff. One of our other members, it's confidential, but lost over $200,000 in the last couple of years, where someone had gotten into his email and had kind of like pretended to be, took that information, and when the wire, they blocked the other email, and then they sent fake wire instructions, and the bank, and in that case, the bank was not at fault because they sent it where they were told to send it, and he was totally out the money, never got it back. So be really, really careful about that. Just always, because this people can get in your email so easy. It's shockingly easy, I guess. Another thing is that I've started working with, I'm not sure how many people here know about positive pay. Have people heard about positive pay? Here, some people know about it. So banks have this thing now that I think it's probably called the same thing at most banks, but you set up with your checking account where you have to go in the morning, you have till 11 o'clock in the morning to approve every transaction that goes through your account, every check that goes through your account. So, my wife does that chore for me. And she goes in every morning and looks and boom, boom, boom. Yes, we wrote those checks, and she makes sure that those were done. That's really important now. I have a retail coin shop in Sarasota, Florida, and in the last 2 years we've had two over $10,000 counterfeit checks that have cleared our checking account, and the banks have before we got the positive pay, before this happened, and the banks paid us the money, but it was probably just as a courtesy to keep our account. But there's obviously, from my earlier conversation, with enough money, they'll say, nope, it's your fault, so they won't do that. And I think once you get positive pay, they let you know you're responsible now in case these things happen. So there's a lot of counterfeit checks that happen, and I see it on on the news feeds and different things all the time on social media, where coin dealers are being attacked by that. So that's one really good way. I highly recommend that. One thing also I did is I hired a company called Nexigen in Cincinnati. They came in and they put all the latest and greatest cyber protection software on my computers. Also to back up everything, in case someone takes all my information. And I wish I could say I'm not an expert in cybersecurity, but I know that I hired someone. I pay him $500 a month to try to protect my systems the best I can, because you're only as good as your weakest link. If I can be super careful about opening emails, but one of my my secretary opens up an email and it's got all of a sudden they're in your whole system. So it's real easy to do that. Also, the ransomware thing. I know that some of the biggest companies in the country have been attacked by ransomware, and that's a serious thing. So you definitely have to be aware of that and try to protect yourself, because that I'll mention that here in a minute. But that ransomware can be, it's one thing to to steal your information. You think, oh, no, it's not that big a deal. But if they steal your customers' information, that opens up another level of liability that you don't even know you have, and it's like it can be exponential as a problem. Another thing, just as simple, is don't keep anything sensitive on your computer. Like, if you have tax returns or anything like that stuff, anything that's sensitive, you can put it on a flash drive or a hard, or another external drive, and only use it when you're using it, and then take it off, so that that information is not on there for someone to, if they do in the random time pop into your computer, they can go steal that information. So that helps. I think that's a good idea to do that. Also, if you've got a lot of money, and and these days with bullion business, everybody here knows that, it's not unusual to do $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 bullion deals. And that money for a little while is in your checking account. So, you know, that's a target. So just be really aware when you've got big money that's going to be floating in your checking account for a while to be careful about that, and maybe have the money immediately moved to a restricted account that doesn't have wire ability out of the account. So that's something to think about. And then finally, one thing is, and I have not done, but I'm going to research it, is buy cyber insurance. And one of our speakers today might mention a little bit about that. But you know, it's cyber insurance you can get now. It protects you from liability, like I mentioned, protecting customers' information. You know, financial coverage in case you're down and you can't operate. You know, I think Heritage was down for a week or so. They had a massive one a year or two ago. So it can have, you know, for big companies, it can have a big financial impact. Also assist with the managing the incident, which is like you know, things like even dealing with sometimes these guys, like I remember one company actually had to pay the ransom. That was the recommendation, and I think now they're telling people not doing that, but dealing with those people, it's better to have a professional do it, you know, take a little bit of the emotion out of it. And also protect against social engineering, which is, there's so much of, like, my case was probably identity theft. I guess you could bring it back down to that. So there's ways you can protect yourself on that. So I don't know the cost exactly on that, but I can tell you one thing. I'm investing a little bit of money in it because it was 100% the most stressful thing I ever went through, and I don't want to ever do it again. So I'm trying to protect myself on it. And I wanted to that's one of the reasons we're trying to do this whole thing. You'll hear probably some more, you know, stories about this, you know, things that's going on. But it's a you know, there's definitely real and present dangers out there, especially with you know, when you're, you know, having things to do with financial and with security like that. So, well, with that, that's my part. So, with that, our next speaker I wanted to introduce today is Robert Wittman. And Robert Wittman, I've known for, gosh, when the ANA thing, was that 15 or 20 years ago? It might have been, yeah, it was 15 or 20, so it was at least 15 years ago or so. But I was on the ANA board, and an employee had stolen coins from the A&M Museum, and we couldn't get the local, we had them like dead to rights, all the information, and we couldn't get the local police. It's a coin, how do we know? You didn't find it, you know, just et cetera, et cetera. And we were able to, someone put us in contact with Robert Wittman, who has a background, and he was able to get this person arrested and convicted. So he was, we knew he's the real deal based on that. But Robert is a highly decorated former FBI agent who has been responsible for the recovery of over $300 million worth of stolen art. He's been featured in numerous films and TV shows about the world of stolen art and material. His book, Priceless, How I Went Undercover to Rescue the World's Stolen Treasures, is a really cool book. If you have a chance, you should read that. It's you know, things that kind of like probably our hobby as well. And he has a unique perspective about the international threat our hobby faces now. As you'll be hearing about more, is, you know, there's these bad guys have identified our business as a rich target for stealing from. So with that, we'll have Robert give us a little presentation about what he deals with. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. You know, it's terrible to hear that story, you know, about your loss. I'll tell you what, that's a very stressful, awful thing. So I'm glad it worked out for you. And thanks for having me come in and meet with everybody. Hey, Tom, how you doing? Good to see you again. I see some friends out there. I've been working with Tom now for about 2 years now, doing the ANA shows. So you might see me standing next to Kenny at the front door at the ANA shows, you know, looking you up and down, making sure you're for real, right? But yeah, I want to talk a little bit, I guess, about the overall, you know, the large world of theft, all right, involving high-value assets, not just coins. I mean, it's everything. And, you know, for 30 years at the FBI, well, 20 years, from 1988 to 2000, I think we did that case around 2012, I think it was. You know, I was involved in just that, high-value asset theft, fraud, forgery, fake, you know, all different types of crimes. And what we see today is that there's a $200 billion worldwide market, okay, that's legitimate, for art, cultural property, artifacts, collectibles, and we fall into that dealer collectible part of it. And, you know, for many, many years, what the FBI would do was chase bank robbers. I mean, everybody knows about that. It's a federal crime. Can't rob a bank. Well, the usual bank robbery today is less than $1,000. All right, and then what's going to happen is you're going to have the FBI and the state police and everybody chasing you, you know, when you have that situation. Many years ago, there was a famous bank robber by the name of Willie Sutton. Some of you who are, you know, a little bit more gray as I am might remember Willie Sutton. And Willie was caught, and as he was being led away to jail, a reporter said to him, "Willie, why do you rob banks?" And Willie looked over his shoulder and said, "Because that's where the money is." Well, the problem is today, that's not where the money is. I can just give you some examples. There was a Tom Brady rookie card signed a couple of years ago, sold for $2.2 million. This is a football card, all right? You know, a Mario Brothers game last year, I think Heritage sold it, sold for $660,000. A Mario Brothers cassette game. And the big one was a Mickey Mantle rookie card, not even signed, from 1952. It was rated a 10, you know, so as good as it could be, $12 million. Well, let me tell you, folks, you know, criminals follow the market. They read these articles. So when they start seeing things like that, you know what that does? And you guys know because you're in the business. If you got a Mickey Mantle rookie card from 1952, and let's say it's a 4 grading, it's still worth $200,000, right? I mean, you know, if you have it in your house and somebody comes in and steals it, and guess what? It's not a federal crime. It's a local crime. So your local, you know, township PD or state police will be the ones who show up. They'll take the report, and they don't care if it's $200,000 or $20. It's all the same. It's property crime for them. It's not a you know a crime involving you know violence or robbery or anything like that. It's a property crime. So they take a report, you turn it into your insurance company, and they're going to say, well, how do you know it's going to be worth $200,000? You know, you've got one comp for $12 million, but how are you going to prove that? So it becomes a situation where these guys know, and they can sell that card. There's nothing special about it. And that's the same with our coins. You know, when we come to our dealers, the problem we have is that our material is very fungible. It's saleable. Just recently, I talked to Jeff a couple of months ago. There was a heist up in Toronto at the Toronto airport. $20 million worth of gold was taken out of a warehouse that had come into the country from Switzerland. These gold bars were marked, but it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to prove where they came from once they're melted or once they're sold. Very easy to sell gold bars. In fact, Jeff said to me, "Hey, do you know the guy who got them? I want some." No, just kidding. No. But I mean, really, right? I mean, it's a situation where it's very hard to be able to get these back and prove where they came from. Same thing goes with the coins. I was just coming up the escalator, and I was looking downstairs, and I saw a couple of dealers. They had all their boxes laid out on the floor, and all their coins were all laid out in the boxes, and they're all looking at the coins. That's rife. I mean, you're asking for trouble. Okay, that's the situation. So a lot of this problem that we're having as far as people coming in and stealing our coins at these trade shows is our own fault. It's us. We're first. We're the first line of defense, and we're the first loss, okay? It's not doing what you're supposed to do at these shows. If you don't want to be a victim, you have to be aggressive. You have to be the type of person who's going to stop these individuals from making you into a victim. Now, at the FBI, I can remember back in the 90s, we had gangs coming in from South America. And the case was called Cold Gems. It was a national case, and basically it had to deal with Colombian gem thieves. Eventually, they weren't Colombian anymore. They were just gem thieves. And the real targets were all of the jewelers. The jewelers were the ones who were really getting hit hard. And they had this thing called the Jewelers Security Alliance, which exists today, which has done a really great job of education, right, Kenny? Yeah, with the Jewelers Security, JSA, and they've done a great job of education for their jewelry people. What's happening now, because of the value, and remember, we're talking about value here. You know, gold back in the 90s was what, $300 an ounce? Today it's what, $1,500? $2,000? Is it that much? Damn, I sold it like 5 years ago and lost money. Okay, so here's the deal. Because of the fact that gold's gone up so much, you're now targets. It's easily sold, easily stolen if you're not aware, if you're not being careful, and you're a target because of the value. So that's what we have to be on the lookout for. These individuals come in, they do distraction. It's one of the things they do. They're gonna have one person. They work in groups. The ones we looked at were wearing baseball caps, specific caps. They would take their cap off as a signal to the other person. They come in. It might be a woman or a man or more than one, a few. They'll come in. They'll talk to you about your coins. One person will have you on the side. The other person's reaching behind your counter. Or they'll get even smarter. They'll come in on a day when it's like shutdown day or startup day, and they come in with a trolley or a cart, and they put your whole collection on the cart and go out the door. This is how they work, and they're doing this a lot, okay? Because they've targeted you now, not just jewelers, but the coin people. So be careful with that. I got a couple of small tips to give to you. And I know Kenny's the one who's really the expert at this. I mean, he's the guy. But a couple of things I picked up on that I thought would be interesting that I haven't seen coin people doing at their shows. Like before the show starts, you want to make sure that you have your travel plans created discreetly. Don't be telling a lot of people, hey, I'm going to the Fun Show next week. Yeah, it's going to be great, and I'm going to have a great time. And you tell everybody in your shop that you're going to be doing this. Don't do that because you're gone. It's like people putting on Facebook when they're on vacation. You put all these pictures of Peru while you're on vacation. Well, you're telling thieves to come into your house now because you're not home. That's exactly what you're doing. So don't be doing that. Don't put it on Instagram. Don't be putting these things on Facebook. Keep it to yourself. I like this one specifically because I actually do this. Take a portable camera device. I use this thing called a CASA, K-A-S-A. And it's a portable little camera device which you can carry anywhere. You can buy them in packs of 3. It's like $100 for 3 of them. And you can set it up. You hook it up to your telephone, your iPhone, and you actually have a record of everything that's going on right in your booth so that you can actually sit there and look at and record all the transactions, all the people that come to your booth on your own CASA on your phone. And you have that throughout the show. So that gives you a record of everything that's going on in case anything happens. During the show, don't leave your booths unattended. I've seen that. I know you're going to talk about it, but we see it all the time. Guys, they put their what do you call it, the glass shelving on top of their booth and put a curtain over it. That doesn't stop anybody, okay? It's not going to stop anybody. Don't leave it unattended. Have 2 people at your booth so somebody can stay and watch maybe while you go get the food, vice versa. Be careful because they're looking for this. They're watching you. When a customer comes up, 1 customer at a time. Don't be looking at 5 different customers trying to hand out coins to them so they can see what you got, because that's when they come and get you. That's when you're not looking because there's 5 people there looking at your coins. 1 at a time. Make sure you get back exactly what you gave them as well. That's while you're at the show. And then specifically, when you leave the show, all right, you know what you can do? Well, I'm sorry, at the show, another thing you can do, instead of leaving your keys on the back of the table, by the curtain, which I see people do all the time, have like a wristband where you can attach your keys so you have them with you, so you don't lose them, so somebody can't steal them when you're not looking. All right, maintain that for your keys because that's how they get into your what do you call it? The showcases. Yeah, the showcase. I'm getting old. I forget things. Switch thefts. Oh, that's really common. A guy will come in, want to look at your coin, and he's looking at it. He looks at it in the pack, the little pack, and then he gives it back to you. It's a different coin. You're not paying attention, so you put it back in. His coin they just gave you back is a graded 2, and he's walking away with your 10. Okay, switch coins. Be careful. Be cognizant of that. And then when you leave the show, hey, take off your badge. Kenny, how many times do we say that? 1 million to everybody comes through. Take off your badge. Because when you go out the door and you go down those escalators and you go out on the street, you're telling everybody, I'm a dealer from the big coin show right there in Pittsburgh or in Phoenix, which were the last ones. And you're telling everybody, this is what I am. Don't do that. That's what they were looking for. They're out there, they're watching. This is what they do. They're professional criminals, folks. They're organized crime. You know, the UNESCO, they call organized crime anytime more than two people get together and conspire to commit a crime and then do it. That's organized crime. And it's not mafia. It's not the Russian mob. You know, it's organized groups of people committing crimes and working together to do it. So that's how you become a victim of that, of organized crime. And then, you know, I have this fight all the time with, but, you know, when you have bags that somebody gives you that has the name of the show on it, and you're carrying all your coins in your bag out the door, okay, you took your badge off, but you got the coin bag. Once again, you're kind of advertising that you're carrying valuable material, and, you know, and then you become a victim of an actual, you know, point of gun robbery. Anything could happen to you. And the last thing I would tell you when you leave is be conscious of who's in earshot. Don't go on the phone with the Uber driver up front and be sitting there talking to your partner saying, I just got a $100,000 coin. The Uber driver hears this. What do you think he's thinking? Well, he's probably not thinking anything. He's probably okay. But who knows, right? Who knows? You're walking down the street and you're talking on the phone and you're telling people what you just did. Who's listening? Maybe the homeless guy sitting right there with a gun? I don't mean homeless. I mean just a guy sitting there with a gun ready to go. Don't be the victim. Don't go out there and act like you can, you know, and keep and not realize that you're the guy who's going to bring this upon yourself. All of that is part of this. So the big picture is big money, big news, big crime. That's why it goes up. It's because of the values, all right? And we all know these coins are getting more and more valuable. That's why you're in the business. You guys are dealers. That's why you do this. You know they're valuable, and you know this is what's happening. You're not collectors. You might be collectors too, but you're dealers first. And so as a result, you're the ones who have the best material. And so you're the ones who are going to be the targets for these individuals. So what is it? Keep vigilant. Keep looking. Keep watching. We at the FBI, we did a study on institutional theft, and we found that 90% of institutional theft is insider. It's inside jobs, folks. It's people stealing from within. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, an employee, but it's people who have access to your coins, who know what they are and know where they're at. And that's what we're talking about. These are inside jobs. Even though they're not people who come in and, you know, who know you or are a friend of yours, but they got inside information now because they know you're a dealer. So that's what you have to be careful of, all right? Don't be that guy, right? All right, I got to go.
Great information, Robert. Thank you so much for that information. I mean, one other thing I would always add to that, like my car is the most unidentifiable car you can drive. I mean, I'm not even a coin dealer anymore, but I just have this PTSD. My car has no stickers on it. It's white. You know, there's a million white Audis in my city now, and I can't even hardly find my own car, which is, I think, really good. You know, you put a custom plate, you're going to be easily found. So moving this along, this has been great so far. We're going to introduce Jolene Daniello next. She's from Gallagher Insurance Company. Jolene's going to come up and tell us about insurance programs that dealers like yourself can look for. Cyber is a huge one. So we're looking forward to hear from Jolene, I'm sorry. She's a UVA grad, which I won't hold it against her, frankly, as a Hokie. From a family business. You've been in the business your whole life, I understand, so that's great. Perfect. So you can just speak off the cuff and help us out and tell us what we need to know. I can, as you come up, I would say one thing I learned as a coin dealer with insurance was when I was negotiating my theft rates, I made sure to add a clause. You're going to probably hate me for this, but I added a clause in my insurance that said, if there's a theft, I want replacement at sales, at retail value. And I got it. I was able to negotiate that so that if there was a theft, which never happened, I wouldn't be arguing with the insurance company over the market value of the coins. So, you know, the insurance just wants to know what their exposure is. So please come on up and tell us some things about insurance and what we can do. Thank you. And then after Jolene comes up, we're going to finish out our time with Kenny Mullins and Doug Davis, who are just instrumental in the right hands on the ground with crime, and they're going to talk about their stories and also do Q&A until we run out of time. So thanks, everybody.
That was an impressive negotiation. Can we hire you? Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Jolene Daniello. I work with Gallagher. I've been doing this over 15 years. As John said, insurance is in my blood. My whole family's in the industry, and as funny as it sounds, it's a passion of the family. So it was necessary. I was going to end up here. I'm going to pivot a little bit. I was going to talk about some exhibition security tips, but I think that was covered pretty adequately. So I'm going to pivot and talk a little bit about the shipping, which is a major source of losses for us and for you guys. A lot of people come to me and say, you know, they're worried that all these shipping losses are going to make you uninsurable as an industry. I'm not concerned about you guys becoming uninsurable. There's a price for everything. What I'm concerned about is the cost, right? The cost of insurance. There's always a cost associated with insuring a problem. So I am not concerned about the uninsurable nature of this industry. I'm concerned about the cost becoming cost prohibitive for the dealers. So I want to go over, I think it's a good time of year for you guys to go over with your team and your logistics departments certain things that you can do. And coming up with a checklist is what I tell all my clients to do. Similar to when I'm packing my kids' backpack for school. Common sense to put the Chromebook in there, to check the T's, dot the I's. But we often have lapses in judgment when we don't have a checklist in front of us. And it's easy. We've seen a lot of losses where certain things that seem like common sense aren't done, and it makes your packages more likely to incur a loss. So I just want to go over a couple of those. The name of the recipient or the name of the shipper. It seems common sense to not put precious metals, specie, or anything that can identify the contents. But we've seen this quite a bit over the last year where someone has actually put that in the name of the shipper or the recipient. On most policies, that's actually a violation. I've paid a few claims where I've been able to get the underwriter to kick in a little, even though someone did violate that because it was a first-time offense. But that's something that's really, really important for you to let your shipping team know and to make sure that they pay attention to that every time they create a label. In addition to that, we encourage people to change the acronym or the name that you're using as the shipper maybe every 6 months, because people can catch on to what you're doing. Maybe someone sliced a box open, they sell precious metals, now they know, Mid-American RC is a precious metals dealer. Even if you keep using that same acronym that doesn't identify you, the carrier might know that this is actually what you do. Double boxing is common sense. Using packing material to prevent the shifting is pretty common sense. Reinforcing with strong tape, I know you guys all know that, so I'm not going to hone in on that. Minimizing the time in transit has become a really big one for us. So I know a lot of times you're shipping and you're going to ship on a Friday and your team has to get something out, but the longer it stays in the hub, the more likely it's going to get lost. Most of my policies don't have a condition where you can't ship on a Friday. Some of them do because they have had high rates of losses, but most of my policies don't have that condition. But it's best practice to not do that, right? You want to act like a prudent uninsured, and I tell all my clients that. Act like you don't have insurance, right? Your claim will get paid, but you don't want to have a claim. So not shipping on a Friday where avoidable is really, really important. Not shipping on the last day before a public holiday, the last working day before a public holiday is really, really important. And I've seen that really, really help some of my clients with higher rates of losses. Switching up the carrier if you've had a string of losses. We've had some really large clients who've had a big string of losses, and we've encouraged them to just pause with that specific carrier and try another one. Doesn't mean you can't go back to them, but someone at UPS might be on to you, right? They know what you're doing, and every 10th package they're going to pick out of. Don't put multiple packages on the same label. I've seen a lot of this over the last year. You're shipping a big order, it's precious metals, you have the box and the label say 1 of 20. The carrier opens box 1, sees precious metals, and now they know what are in the other 19 boxes. So I've had a lot of losses where not all 20 have gone, but they've cherry-picked 4, or they've skimmed 2 bars off the top of each, and it results in a very, very big loss. So never put those boxes on the same tracking. Always do a different tracking for each box if you have to send a larger shipment in that manner. On to my next point, and I know most of you are gonna hate me for this, but I really encourage you to take those larger shipments and price it out with a third-party consolidator such as Malcolm Meat Express, or ideally with the Armored Car Company. What would it cost to send a $500,000 order via 1 armored car shipment versus 20 boxes via FedEx Ground? What's that incremental difference? Because the difference in security and it actually making it to its destination in its entirety is going to be huge. So I encourage you guys to start kind of pricing that out when you have a very large order. Next, if you do have to ship a large order, multiple packages, we really encourage you to spread them over several days. Shipping a $500,000 order with 20 boxes via FedEx Ground on the same day to the same person is just asking for trouble. So again, these aren't conditions of the policy, but we're strongly encouraging you guys to do this. When you do have a package that's sold, I would always encourage you to file a claim with the carrier along with your insurance company, and send the recipient the tracking information so that they can make sure that they track it and are available when it's going to be delivered. Now, I promised Jeff I wouldn't talk too long. I think you broke out in hives when I said I could talk about this topic for an hour, but I just want to touch on one big thing that we've been seeing, which kind of goes hand in hand with the cybersecurity. You really want to have your account set to do not divert, to have the packages not be diverted, okay? And that doesn't mean that they still can't divert them, but we've had some situations where accounts have gotten hacked. With the onset of AI, it's very easy to, once you get the tracking number, the account number is embedded in there. And with AI, it's very easy just to run that account number and come up with every single possible current live tracking number for that account. And that's scary. So we encourage you to talk to your UPS and FedEx rep. Make sure your account is set to not allow the package to be diverted, and to have 1 or 2 dedicated individuals that can be the only people that can divert a package if needed. And they have to check ID, they have to make sure that it's that person who has requested a package be diverted, or you can just set it to absolutely no diversions at all. We've had a couple very, very big losses on that front, and it's definitely a scary prospect. UPS is actually coming up with a program right now called Delivery Defense, where they're using kind of AI to our advantage. It's sort of a powered approach to reducing the risk of delivery theft. And I've been looking into it with my colleagues. Hopefully at the next show I can give you guys some more information on it. Basically, it sets a location score for each delivery address on a scale of 1 to 1,000, and it will let you know the confidence rate for successful delivery. And it's based on, so this is kind of using AI to our advantage. It's based on 2 years worth of UPS data. I think FedEx is trying to come up with something similar. And it gives the delivery address you're going to use a score. If it gets 1,000, there's a high confidence rate that that package will be delivered. If it gets a 10, well, they've had problems with that address. And then you can encourage your client to do a hold for pickup at UPS, or you can tell them you can't deliver to that address and they'll have to provide an alternate. So there are things that are, that are being worked on within the carriers. I promise I'm going to stop soon. I have one more point. So what can we do as an industry? What can I do as an insurance broker to help with this problem? Right now, I'm working with our insurers, particularly one domestic insurer right now, who's been contacting various trade organizations to see if we can approach the carriers about this logistics problem. We don't want to alienate the carriers because we don't want them to say, you know what, too much trouble, we're just going to pull out of shipping precious metals. But we want to work with them to come up with solutions. So we've involves some high-ups at UPS and FedEx. We're working with them to try to come up with some solutions for this problem of the packages being diverted and how they can be held a little bit more accountable to make sure your packages get to their final destination. So with that said, we would love to hear from you. I have one of my underwriters here from London who I'm going to be walking the show with. He's coming in tomorrow. Excuse me. And I want him to hear about the problems you guys are facing, because he hears it from me, but it's better to hear it direct from the client. So as I bring him around, please open up to him, let him know, the shipping logistics problems you guys are facing, any issues you've had with specific carriers. It can help us in our fight against, getting some of this fixed for you. So hopefully next time I will have some solutions. Thank you.
So that was Jolene Daniello, everybody. And I should have mentioned up front, she's with Gallagher's Insurance, and, obviously it pays major dividends to work with an insurance company that knows our industry. So what table are you at? Where will they find you? Table 847. Go see them at the show. They are an official sponsor of the PNG, so we appreciate them for that, and we hope you can do some business with them. I think Jeff said he does, right? So, perfect. So the last part of our presentation today includes, like I said, 2 VIPs in the crime aspect of the numismatic trade. It's Doug Davis and Kenny Mullins. If you guys will come on up while I introduce you. Doug Davis is the founder and president of the Numismatic Crime Information Center, known as NCIC. I speak with Doug all the time. It's been a pleasure as part of PNG to meet Doug more. He's got 45 plus years in law enforcement and crime, and he's also a coin dealer. So he knows, it's just somebody who's intimate with our industry and knows everything that's going on. If you know of any crimes in this coin business, usually people call Doug first. He's sort of like the fulcrum of information. And Kenny, retired New York Police Department, major case squad. Very good, I didn't even know that. Close ties with federal and state task forces. Kenny started with PPI 28 years ago and has supervised over 750 coin and jewelry shows. You usually see Kenny at the front door of all the coin shows, so it pays to know him, so he lets you in when you forget your badge. But anyway, he's the co-owner of PPI, and thank you, Kenny and Doug, for coming today.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Bob, for your speech, and thank you, Jolene. I wanted to touch on one little thing with you, Jolene. Quite often we have FedEx coming in and going out, so they pick up products from you guys and take them out on the floor. That's great. But a lot of times people want to go to the office in the convention center and mail their products. They don't use the scheduled intake and drop-off. I suggest you never use the convention center business office. Go to the closest UPS or FedEx office outside the convention center, because every package in there is from you guys. So they just have to grab one. It doesn't matter which one. They know it's all going to be coins. So I try to tell people, if you can use the FedEx or UPS, whoever comes on the boss floor and then takes the product out, great. But do not mail them from the building itself. Go 2 blocks away. Here it's on Turkey Lake Road. There's a post office, and there's a FedEx over there. You can go, and because this is where 90% of the stuff is sitting overnight, like Jolene says, or waiting for UPS and FedEx to pick up, and it's sitting around, and when it sits around, it disappears. So, and thank you, Bob, for mentioning what used to be called what used to be called the Colombian theft gangs, then went to South America, and now we've just called it the international theft gangs. They are due to the current state of our border in this country, and something that not many of you realize, but every country, much like Fidel Castro did in the 70s with the Mariel boat flotilla, every country south of the United States border has opened their jails and let their criminals into the United States. So at a time when I used to call task force and they'd tell me there's 10 to 20 groups running the country, now when I call and ask for help, they hang up on me because they're too busy. There are hundreds of them running this country, and they're coming in every day. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they're from. And that's only the ones they count, not the million or so getaways. So this is a new market for them all over the world. They come here to steal, and this is what they do. They come in with groups of 12. They'll invest $20,000, and in 3 weeks, they'll come back with $5 million. They're very proficient at what they do. They use a half a dozen vehicles. They use Walmart burner phones. Whenever I catch one, you grab the phone. They've made 15 phone calls in the last 5 minutes. They're operating in the room. They come in groups of 12. With the pandemic, it's been nothing but a boost for them because now they wear that cheap little blue mask and a hat. Where are most cameras? On the ceiling. So what do? You get a hat and a mask on your face. That's it. That's why we make you take your mask off now and a hat when you come in the room so we can have a face ID. But these people are proficient. It's like Oliver Twist. They use children. They use pregnant women. They start a fight in this corner. It's all distraction. Another thing you guys make real big mistakes. I see it every day. You're counting your money in front of everybody. Sitting there counting. $43,000 was taken last year. 12 individuals was watching the booth. 12 of them. One person grabbed, they pretended they were a cleaner, which I want to touch base on that also. They pretended they were a cleaner. They were distracted by other members of the booth. Now here's the vendor dealing with that. Person in the empty booth behind her reached over. By the way, the bundle of money was so thick, they couldn't close the glass top of the showcase. So they didn't even have to open it. They just reached their hand in, pulled it out. That person walked away, switched it to another bag. It was switched 3 times before they left the building, before they left the boss floor. So even if you say, that guy, he's the one who robbed me, we grab him, he's already passed his bag to somebody else, This is how sophisticated they are. This is what they do for a living. A cop is a cop 12 hours a day. A criminal is a criminal 24 hours a day. So in 5 years, they have 3 times the experience as somebody who's an authorized law enforcement officer. This is what they do for a living, and they're very proficient at it. Bob kind of touched base on it. They're going to, the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to increase. And unfortunately, the propensity for violence has increased greatly with them. So they like to hurt you to let you know, this is what I mean business, and you'll just be complacent, you'll be compliant then. So unfortunately, it's getting very dangerous out there. I don't see an end to it. I see it getting worse. And you, as Jeff has said, are our first line of defense. You guys are, because you have to tell us, oh, we've arrested people, and I've had coin dealer come up to me saying, I was watching that guy before. I knew he was wrong. Well, call me. Everyone's got my number. If you don't, I'll give it to you right now. Just grab a security guard, call us, because we can't pat down everybody who walks in the room. We don't know that this person walks in and 5 minutes later, his partner walks in and 2 minutes later. So they're very organized. I learn from them every single show. Every show I learn from them. They're the professionals. And they have trained us. So I'll let Doug talk, and then maybe if anybody has any questions for us, I'll be happy to answer them. Doug?
All right, thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you all, but mine is going to be short, because the reason I pick up the tail end is because you need help once you become a victim, and that's where the Numismatic Crime Information Center comes into play. Right now, across the U.S., we're in an unprecedented time for law enforcement in regards to retail crime. Retail crime means your shop, you as a part-time dealer, whatever the case may be. If you see the news headlines and everything, it has to do with groups going in, grabbing stuff, taking out thousands and thousands of dollars. They're going into jewelry stores, they're going into coin shops, they're grabbing stuff and moving and running out the door and taking off. Right now is the greatest threat to you as a coin dealer, as a coin shop owner. And what you need to understand, and what you need to do during 2024 is to make sure that you have conducted a personal and business threat assessment in the way that you do and conduct your business. And that is not just for you. You have to remember that you are not the only one that's a target. Your family's a target. Anybody that works for you is a target. Because of why? The high volume value that you conduct every day. And let me tell you right now, 80 to 90% of law enforcement does not know jack squat about the numismatic industry and the way this business is conducted. If you go out and get hit after this show, and the first guy that rolls up as a patrol officer or a state trooper comes up and is answering the call that you put in, and you rush up to him and say, hey, I just lost my whole PCGS NGC inventory of Morgan dollars, he's going to look at you like you came from outer space. And right there is the problem. Right there is where you need to be aware of the resources that are available to you after you become a victim. Julian Liedman is a perfect example of what happened years ago when he lost $1 million on the side of the road. On the side of the road, Julian calls me and says, hey, can you help me explain to this guy what happened, and that, yes, I do carry $1 million after a show, and it is not an insurance scam. Because 80% of the calls I get from law enforcement officers want to clarify, is this an insurance scam, or do these people really conduct business this way? And of course, depending on who it is or whatever, then we go through the weeds and sort it out and everything. But recently, as of Christmas Day, Bellevue coins get burglarized for an unknown amount of money, and we haven't gotten the information yet, just part of it. 2 weeks ago, actually it was 3 weeks ago, a North Carolina dealer goes to a small show, leaves the show, goes home, parks his car, and he's hit that evening, and loses so far, we haven't got a complete list yet, of over $250,000. I have a partial list and everything, but we have not got the complete list, and that's why it's not been out. We do not have all the information on the Bellevue burglary. We do have video and everything. It's important to y'all to realize that number one is that we can become that gap between the victim and law enforcement because we can talk the talk and walk the walk. We can help those investigators understand the business, understand what you lost, but the key to it is we can help them plan that investigation to where they'll do it, a complete investigation, the best they can. Whether it comes to the good, bad, or ugly, at least we know that they're doing an investigation, that it was thorough and done everything that they could to help the victim recover or initiate some persons of interest in that particular crime. A perfect example, and y'all are the key to reducing the crime that's happening across the U.S. and globally as coin dealers and in the numismatic industry. And I'll tell you right now, the two things that help us is communication and intelligence information. What's going on out there? What do you see that's happening in your coin shops? What do you see that's happening in the bullion world? Get a call earlier today, a detective in the state of California wanting help in regards to a person that's got scammed out of bullion. What do we do? Where do we go? What direction? There's a lot of things that can be done. But I can tell you right now, the most important thing that happens with numismatic crimes is the delay in time. From the time that offense occurs to the time that we get out the information to the time that it's investigated is critical to solving that offense. Because this is the way it happens, and Kenny can tell you that, and Bob can tell you that. What happens is that patrolman that rolled up on the scene of that call that just got robbed from the dealer after a show, he's going to take it, he's going to go back to the station, he's going to write the report. It's going to sit in the report, especially when does it mostly happen? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday on the way home. So then it's going to go to their supervisor, who's going to correct the report, send it to CID, then CID is going to look at it, and then they're going to decide whether or not they're going to give you a call or not. And then we're looking at 3 to 5 days in regards to initiating that offense. If we get the call, if we get involved, at least we can get the information out within minutes, depending on the situation and the scope of what's going on with the investigation. We will not put out anything unless we coordinate it with that investigating agency Or if I get too much of a lag time, we're going to put it out knowing that I'm not screwing up anything with that department investigation. But it is critical that we get that information as soon as possible. Not many people know that on the cert coins and everything, those certification numbers can be put into the national crime system. But the problem of it is not, y'all don't know that more than likely. The law enforcement officers don't know about it, because in 1986, I helped develop the FBI's National Stolen Coin File that only lasted for about 2 or 3 years. And then now it's been converted over into the National Stolen Art File. So you can, regardless of whether there's a certain number or not, depending on the scarcity, the rarity, it can go into that file. But local law enforcement agencies have got to call the local FBI office to have those numbers put in there and coordinate that. But to tell you the truth is, I helped develop FD Form 623, which is the FBI's form for that. It doesn't exist anymore. But if you told them about that National Stolen Coin, they would have no idea. So those are some of the things that you need to be aware of. Time is critical. Law enforcement doesn't know anything. NCIC, we have the resources to get the information out as quick as possible. We can help them in developing a plan for that investigation. But more than anything else, we can bridge the gap between the victim and the law enforcement officer. Sometimes it's tough. They don't want to listen to a small town police chief from Texas, trying to get into their business because they're very territorial. The other things of it is the threshold for federal crimes, Bob could tell you this and everything right now, they're not going to mess with it. FBI's not going to mess with it. 500,000 to $1 million, depending on the situation, and unless it's a combination of cases that will go over those thresholds. So it's a real problem. But we're there to help you. You can go to numismaticcrimes.org. Give me a call. We'll have a table at 8:33. Kenny and Bob has brought up everything that I've preached since 1986 about coin shows and what you need to do from a victim standpoint. I applaud the PNG for doing what they're doing now and bringing these type of programs to y'all. I hope it continues. If there's anything that we can do from the NCIC, we'll be glad to help you in any way, answer any questions at any time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, we're going to basically conclude here. Thank you, everyone, for coming, because we're getting towards the show time, and I didn't want to keep anybody. But I just think this was an incredible panel. So thank you guys, James, and for coming today. And we're recording this whole thing, so we're going to put it online, and so we'll share that with the PNG membership. I think you can see we're adding value to this organization every minute. And please come and grab an application. I'll put some up front. And if anybody has a question, raise your hand. But I think everybody looks like they want to get going to the show. But thanks again.